All right. I am super excited today because I have a very good friend here with me. When I see her face, I just get so inspired because she is one badass woman. It is Regan Hillyer. Thank you so much for being on this interview.
Oh, thanks for having me, AJ. I love you, and it's an honor to be here. It really is.
Yes, love you too. And you've had such a big impact on my life that I just want to share just everything that you are and everything that you're doing with the world. So Regan and I, we've been friends for quite some time. And the moment that we connected, I knew this one was special. Actually, it was about 18 months ago. I had Regan on my podcast. And when I interviewed her, it was like magic. I was just so fascinated with her that I was like, you have to come to my seminar. She came to my seminar and spoke. And from that point on, my audience are magic. And from there, she just up-leveled. And about a week ago, Regan sent me a text that she just had her best month ever. In 30 days, she made over $1.1 million from her online coaching business. So I was just like fascinated by that. I was like, Regan, this is tremendous because you just set the bar so high for everyone. And at the same time, you're just like enjoying life. You're not like hustling, grinding, pushing yourself away. Everything's just happening effortlessly. So before we jump in, I'm just super curious. Like, you travel a lot. If someone comes up to you, maybe they're sitting to you on the plane, and they say, excuse me, ma'am, what do you do for a living? What do you typically tell them?
Yeah, look, it really depends on who I'm speaking to. But if it's a random person on the plane, and generally I say, I help people change their life. And that really opens up the conversation of, wow, how do I do that? Or how do you do that? Or like, what does that look like? And then we dive a little bit deeper. But if it's someone like listening to your podcast that has done a lot of work on themselves and they're already in this process of evolution, then my answer is really, I help people raise their vibration and shift their frequency so that they can manifest greater things in their life.
Yes, yes. And you've manifested so many great things. Like, I'm not going to go into all the things you do, but you're a best-selling author. You have your own podcast. You do your own retreats, seminars. The list goes on and on and on. But let's just talk about this monster month that you just had, right? Can you just take everyone on the journey on how this big goal came? Because every entrepreneur, we have goals. First, 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures, and then you have just done this in such a fast, short span of time. So I would love to share, like, what led you up to this moment right now?
Absolutely. Well, if I take you guys back, like way back, like 7, 8 years ago in business, I had an offline education company, and it was, I guess, doing pretty well from the outside looking in, and we were doing roughly $1 million a year. But I was very much creating that from a place of looking externally for the answers and looking strategically for the answers and being like, what marketing do I need? And like, how do I need to like change this business and kind of like work really hard and push in order to get the results. And I really realized one day that maybe there was a different way to do things, and it started to feel, I guess, quite out of alignment for me. So that's when I went to Bali actually for like 4 weeks and completely unplugged and really just started tuning in and asking myself, like, what is my truth? What is my message? Like, what do I want to create in this world? And really, trying to answer some of those really big questions, I guess, which resulted in me completely walking away from that business, shutting it down. Everyone was like, Regan, you are insane. Like, that's $1 million business. Like, what's wrong with you? And I was like, look, it's not an alignment. And it's not my truth. I know there's more. I know there's a better way to do things. And that's what threw me online, because one of the things that was out of alignment was not being able to do it from anywhere in the world. And I really wanted to travel and have this amazing lifestyle as well as help lots of people. So that's when I made some decisions and commitments, I guess. And I committed to really living into my truth and living into my message and sharing that every day. And I also committed to figuring out, how do I create all of this and expand from a place of ease and grace and flow rather than push and like work hard and hustle and all that, right? And so there's been obviously a really evolutionary process through that, and lots of, mentors and coaches. I've spent over $500,000 on personal development, right? Like, hey, seminar junkie over here, right? So there's all of that journey. But, recently in the last 6 months, the thing that's really, I guess, expanded me and shifted me and ultimately raised my vibration and my frequency, which has allowed me to obviously create more and receive more, is actually going deep in Peru and using natural plant medicine as a tool to really expand my own consciousness and my own ability to show up in a bigger way in this world. So that's been like the recent gem, which has really catapulted the recent results, I guess.
Yes, no, and I so love that you're sharing this, because I actually recently did a podcast about microdosing and how so many entrepreneurs are now going to the world of psychedelics to just get the edge, to open up their mind, their creativity, their consciousness. And there's been long-term studies on various plant medicines seeing that there really is no negative effects. 20, 40, 50 years of people taking it consistently, no toxicity, no side effects, and people are having these eye-opening experiences. And I remember clearly right before you went down to Peru and you were telling me about your experience, like I was just so excited for you, because it's something that I've always been fascinated with and I've really studied for the past few years. And I was so curious to see like what would change or how the experience would be. And I remember like when you got back and you told me like the shifts that you had and the experiences that you had, like I was just blown away. It inspired me to actually do it myself. So I would love for you to share just like that first initial experience, let's say pre-plant medicine to post-plant medicine.
Totally. And I think it's important to note that, I first, I guess, heard about plant medicine probably just over 4 years ago. And I had a couple of friends that were starting to go to Peru and do this. And I was literally like, you guys are crazy. You're telling me that you're going to go to Peru, like drink a plant and then vomit and practically die. And then like, that's meant to be fun. I was like, oh, good luck, like whatever. So don't buy me. I'll be over here making some money, right? I couldn't see the link. And I definitely wasn't ready to be in that space for sure. But I noticed myself over the years getting more and more drawn to it. But I think it's also important to say that I had a whole lot of fear going into it, a massive amount of fear. So I'm not someone that has like ever used drugs in their life, right? Like I barely even take like, like a painkiller for a headache or something. Like I don't put anything in my body. I've never even smoked weed, right? And so for me, I was like, well, like, okay, I'm open now, but how is my body going to react? Because I'm not someone who's really used to putting substance in my body. The most you'll see me putting in my body is like a protein powder, right? Like super extreme. And so there was a lot of yeah, I know, right? Maybe a fat burner if you're lucky. Right? So I was like, I had a lot of fear going into it. And for me, my very first experience was actually in Costa Rica, and it was with this amazing group. And I went there to teach at a workshop for a few days. And this was like a 30-day immersion that people were in. And I came in halfway through, but it was an amazing tribe of, I think 25 people or so. And I felt super, super, super safe. Like I got to know them over a few days, and a lot of people had amazing experiences before, and it was totally optional. I didn't have to do it. So that's when I thought, you know what, I'm just going to surrender to this, and I'm going to go and like do this like one ceremony in this one night. And I remember speaking to you like pretty much straight after it, AJ, and I was like, oh my gosh, like just crazy. The only way I can describe it, and this is really how I guess describe all my journeys and all my ceremonies since then, is very much like 20 years of personal development, hardcore doing the work, the ups and downs, the lessons, the learnings, the breakthroughs, the challenges, the fear, all of that, right? All of that for like 20 years in one night. Wow. Right? This is the only way I can describe it. And it's crazy. I mean, you have to learn to surrender, and the medicine will literally take you through, and it will detox you on a physical level, on an emotional level, and then on a spiritual or energetic level. And the medicine knows what you need. So for some people, it's a really hardcore physical experience. For others, their body doesn't need that, but it's super crazy emotionally. Like it's just different for everybody. But for me, it was very much the process of learning to surrender and learning to let go of control. And that's one of the biggest things that it's taught me, is that, okay, where am I actually trying to control the process in my life and my business? Where can I surrender and instead co-create with the universe, so that everything that needs to come through me is coming through me because I'm available, instead of basically getting in my own way. Does that make sense?
That is powerful. Yeah, I totally get it. And I myself, and I know a lot of listeners, they've never been under the influence of a psychedelic to that level. And
Right.
I guess I'm curious, I'm sure a lot of people are curious, going through that experience, has it changed the way that you look at the experience of life?
Mm.
Or
Yeah, no,
did it give
yeah.
you like new insights, or more so solidified what you already knew?
I think it's a mixture of both. It's a mixture of both. I'd done a lot of work before this, so it's not like I was going in and this was my first kind of
Oh,
thing.
yes.
I'm grounding into, like 10 years of personal development. So there was a lot around, what I believe about manifestation and, energies in the world and creation. A lot of that, the way I can describe it was verified, but also grounded into my body. Okay. So it was more like it went from a mindset or mental knowing to an actual embodiment of those truths.
Wow.
So that was around, the things that I guess knew or thought that I knew, which I really became in that moment. But then also I was opened up to a whole lot more, which I then started seeing and receiving and understanding and like looking at these different, I guess, layers of evolution and life. And, one of the big things for me recently in Peru was actually in one of the ceremonies using not ayahuasca, but a cactus called San Pedro, which is a very grounding medicine. It's a grandfather energy. So the aya kind of takes you up and it's explosive and feminine and like out of control, crazy, right? And then the San Pedro really grounds you down. So for me, it's like the ayahuasca opened me up around, here's where you need to be vibrating in a frequency if you want to manifest more and call in more in your life. And then the other medicine helped me actually embody it. And I could actually feel like my DNA recalibrating and I guess rewiring and reshifting
Wow.
as I actually anchored that feeling into my body instead of having it just as something that I see in ceremony.
That is so powerful. And
Yeah.
in a sense, it was like all of your life you had these premonitions and intuitions as to how the universe works. And going through this experience, it really just solidified it, because what is fascinating is, I'm a research junkie. So I've studied this stuff for many, many years and reading different people's experiences and reports. And it's so fascinating because most people have a very similar experience. And that is interesting because there's so many different philosophies and ways of life, and people look at the universe, God, in so many different ways, but it's so interesting. There's a common theme that everyone has.
Exactly. And, I think it's really feeling a connection to something bigger than yourself at the end of the day. And it's going to look different for everyone, if it's God or spirit or the universe. And one of my big things was nature, to be honest, like really, drinking the plants and the way that we run the event over the 9 days in Peru is that there's a special diet you're following as well. So you're only eating plants too, and you're living in nature. So it's literally like you are embodying these plants, right? And for me, it was like feeling this deep connection with nature at a deeper level than ever before, like literally really realizing, wow, the earth is alive. And if we tune in, we can actually feel her and we can feel the vibration, and just becoming so attuned to that, which really woke me up, because in so many ways, in many of the ceremonies, I really also felt the pain of the earth, and I felt the destruction that's going on in the world, and and seeing flashes of things that are happening around the world where I knew about them before, where they weren't like, oh, this is happening. It was like, oh no, I'm very aware of this, but wow, I've really turned a blind eye to this stuff, and I've gone, oh, that's too big of a problem for little me to sort out, right? And instead it was really feeling one with nature and being in harmony with nature and going, you know what, no, like I have a responsibility to actually contribute in some way around this and to create change around this and spread awareness around this, and really starting to see the ways that I can do that by like this podcast, by opening my mouth and speaking about it, or raising funds to contribute to things, or making decisions like for investments, for example. I won't contribute to anything that's not helping the world in a sustainable way now. I'm not interested in it if it just makes money, right? So really linking into that. So I think one of the biggest things again is just having that connection to something so much greater than you, when all of a sudden your life just really goes far beyond just being about little you, and you connect into something so much bigger. And I don't know, that's when really powerful stuff starts to happen.
I love that. And from the moment you came back from Peru, from that really big experience, it's like you've just like been emanating so much love out into the world just with your charitable events and just creating big changes. And right now you even feel with plant medicine as a whole, you want to bring awareness to it. So if someone is listening and perhaps they've heard about plant medicine and they're thinking about doing it, why is it important for one to experience this journey?
Oh, look, I think it's really important. Firstly, I believe you need to be ready. I don't think it's for everybody in every moment. I think you really have to be willing to burn everything and do the work. I mean, it is a crazy experience. I'm not going to lie. You're literally purging like with your body and like, purging everything, which is interesting because it can start out that way. But, and recently in Peru, when we were on to ceremony 3, 4, 5, I wasn't purging anymore, which is interesting because it was full surrender and it's like I'd released what I'd need to. So look, I think it's important to, if you feel the call, really tune in and listen. Is that call there? For me, for 4 years, I knew about it, but I wasn't pulled to it. And then I started being pulled to it. And then it was like, okay, no, I'm going to overcome this fear and actually do this. Right. And obviously super grateful for that experience. But I think if you're someone that wants to evolve, I truly believe it's one of the fastest ways. If someone comes to me now and says, hey, like, I've done personal development. I'm in the work constantly. I'm looking to grow my business. I'm looking to expand my capacity to receive. I want to increase my income. Like my answer to all of that, to be honest, is like, well, if you really want the fastest way, go and immerse yourself in medicine. Like you will see everything. You will raise your vibration. You'll shift your frequency. You'll tap into love and light. You'll receive the messages that you need to receive in this lifetime. And again, it's not like it's not going to happen if you don't do medicine. It just speeds up the process, right? I think honestly, like even the financial results this month, for example, I think they would have happened anyway. I think I would have figured out a way to make it happen, but it might have been like 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now, right? It's just accelerated the process.
So that is super appealing. And talking about accelerating the process, on the line we have business owners and entrepreneurs, and they hear of this big jump that you have, going to having your first $1 million month, and obviously it's going to accelerate even more after that. What do you think led to this acceleration? Super curious, like in this short amount of time of doing plant medicine, what has led up to this really happening, the speeding up the process?
Yeah, totally. Well, look, I think a lot of it was actually in ceremony, and it's a crazy thing to explain, but literally before you take the medicine, you can put intention to it. And I suggest you do put intention to it. One of the last ceremonies, like my intention was literally show me whatever you need to, and you can go down that route, but you just don't know what's coming if you do that, right? Versus, I had an intention in one of the ceremonies. I was like, okay, show me what I need to see around purpose and around abundance, and specifically around this business. That's what I asked for, right? And so sure enough, I start seeing everything, and I start receiving the messages, and I start really seeing and receiving where it is that I need to evolve to. And it was interesting, like for example, taking on new private clients, and it was crazy because I received this message and this download, and I immediately had resistance to it. I was like, oh, I can't charge that much. Like that's too much. That's too soon. Like all of this stuff came up. And then sure enough, if you don't surrender to the medicine, you kind of get messed over a little bit. So my whole body was like, boom, I got smashed on the ground, and it was like, do you want to listen or not?
Wow.
It was like, okay, I surrender, I'm listening, right? So it was this crazy process around really, I guess, surrendering and becoming open to receive it. But then, of course, it's the embodiment after the medicine as well. And this is an important thing to talk about, because I know a lot of people that go into ceremony that go, wow, like, oh my God, my brain like exploded and I saw everything and it was crazy and now I've got all the answers. And then like 6 months later, I'm like, well, what have you done with your life? Like, how is it different? And they're like, oh yeah, like, I guess it was just a good trip, right? So for me, like, I'm very, very, very intentional around this work, that it is work. And it's not just like a day or a night of just like blowing up your mind and seeing all this crazy shit. Like, what's the point? You may as well actually just go do some drugs and have a good time, right? So not that I do that, but suppose people do. So for me, it's about very much opening up so you can see what you need to receive, but then also embodying it and learning to integrate it and acting from the space. So, in Peru, we did a lot of work around, using breath work and yoga to actually cellularly get it in your body.
Wow.
We worked we worked with things like family constellation and removing family blocks that would stop these things actually coming forward and manifesting. And then of course the journaling and the meditating and doing the work and embodying it. So, yes, okay, I can say, yeah, this came from ceremony, but it also came from like the daily discipline of really being in the work from that. And in my mind, it's like using the ceremony to open up and then as a springboard into your life after that. I think there's too many people that go into ceremony and they're just like, oh, that was amazing. And then they don't actually embody the work.
Yes. Love it. Embodying the work. And I love earlier when you mentioned like, when the medicine calls you, that's when you want to open that door, because for many people, I'm sure they've heard about it, but there's a strong urge. And a mutual friend of ours, Marcy Locke, when she did her first ceremony, she organized a trip to Colombia and she invited me at the time, but something wasn't ready with me at the time. Yep. And then recently you invited me and it was like, I needed more time. Mm-hmm. And it's very fascinating because the moment I committed to doing the ceremony that I'm doing actually 2 days from now, it's like, I feel like my life just changed. The moment I said yes, that's the day I'm going to do it, it's like I started looking at my life differently. And I've heard about that case and I was curious about your thoughts about even committing to the medicine prior to it. Like what happens, because it's like I'm looking at my life differently and I'm looking at decisions I'm making, and it's like the transformation is already starting, which is really interesting.
Yeah, and it's such a beautiful conversation, AJ, because the medicine's within you, right? And this is really the magic that most people don't get when they go into ceremony, and here's why they don't embody it, is because they're in an experience dealing with something outside of them, or that's what they think, right? They're taking external medicine when really the medicine activates what's already in you, and everything you're seeing and receiving is just within you. You just haven't had the capacity to tap into it and see it and receive it. So the beautiful thing is that, yeah, when you say yes to this, you will notice things start to shift automatically. It's like ceremony is like some midpoint along the way, with the saying the yes, the before the ceremony, and then the integration after. But the medicine's working on you the whole time. I remember the first time I went into ceremony, I said yes to it probably 4 days before that. I was still going, okay, let me feel out the groove, and like, let's see, do I like these people? Do I trust how they're doing it? Because there's obviously things that you want to make sure you're safe with. It's really important. And so then I said yes. What's interesting is I felt the shift when I said yes, but 24 hours before that, I was noticing my arms were tingly and I couldn't feel one of my feet properly. And I was like, guys, is there something wrong with my body? Like, what's going on there? Like, oh no, that's quite normal. The medicine's already working on you. It's working on your like physical breakthroughs right now. And that's happened to me a lot. So yeah, the medicine's in you, and yes, she starts working on you right away, especially if it's ayahuasca, but all medicines, I believe. And there's nothing external. You're simply tapping into what's already there.
Love it. That just gave me like such a big insight that the medicine's already in you. And it's true. It's we're all in this earth plane, and it's, even plants themselves, we share a lot of the same DNA, and there's all these parts in plants when they enter our bodies, they communicate with us. And that's really the beautiful thing. One thing you were saying earlier is giving up control. And I will admit that is the thing I need to work on the most. And perhaps that is why I'm doing the ceremony. So 2 days from now, I'm going to experience plant medicine. What advice do you have for me in terms of the control factor?
My advice, quite honestly, would be, you've got to let go of control. Otherwise, you're going to be fucked over. Seriously, it's not going to be fun. If you were trying to control this process, quite honestly, it will be hell. And I've seen people go into ceremony and have a real hellish time and really battle and just constantly be purging and get out of it and be like, that was awful, worst thing ever. But they can't let go. Like, they have such a hard time surrendering and just trusting what it is and letting go of the process. And what's interesting is that when you truly get into that place, I mean, like I said, I stopped purging. I mean, it was actually really blissful and amazing, and just like, seeing stuff and receiving it and saying yes and show me more, instead of like resisting it and, oh God, and what's my body doing? And if you get out of your mind, and if you fully burn trying to control anything, then it will be an amazing process. And look, I think that's such a beautiful metaphor for life as well. You know, there's so many people that are so stuck in control and controlling their life and controlling their business and controlling their money. And it's such a trap because it's the one thing that's got them to where they are today, right? It's the one thing that's actually generated their results in their life and their business. So it's the one thing that's the hardest to let go of. But what they don't realize is that wherever it's got them, they think they're at their top point right now. That's their like 10%. And there's 90% more waiting to be unleashed, waiting to be stepped into, but they can't do it because they haven't surrendered. They're in a place of manufacturing their life and their money and their business through trying to control the results versus totally surrendering and taking aligned action, co-creating with the universe and letting what already is actually just flow through you simply because you're available to it. Does that make sense?
I get it. Totally get it. And
Yeah.
interestingly enough, I had a great conversation with Gabby Kowalski, who is one of your all-star students. She's a close friend of mine. We spoke about 2 nights ago, and she was discussing the same exact concept of letting go and surrendering. And she said it changed her life, and she's talking about the results that she has in every element of her life and how much you've helped her with that. And it's like, really giving up control, that really makes all the difference, and really being in the moment and allow life to just give you what you need through your intuition. So I would love for you to elaborate on that concept.
Yeah, no, it's massive. And I love Gabby, and I've just seen her rise, to be honest, like,
exploding.
Right.
She loves you. And she says you've changed her life, and she's worked with so many different coaches, but no one has impacted the same way you have.
She's amazing, and to her credit, she really does show up and do the work. And yeah, I ran a full like hour-and-a-half training in a mastermind group that she's in recently, and it was all about like burning control that's keeping you stagnant. And you know, I think one of the biggest things to realize is that the whole world is encouraging you to control the process. So without getting super deep into like the government and all this kind of stuff, but if we look at the government and society, they're really putting you, I think, you know, in a state of hypnosis where you're actually taught that control is the answer. So we go to school and we're taught that we have to control like our grades and our results, and we have to control how long we're there, and we have to behave a certain way and dress a certain way and all this kind of stuff, right? Which, if you look at it, is like control. There's no teachings about like, oh, you know, just surrender, just like let the bliss flow through you, just like operate from ease and flow. Like there's none of that whatsoever. But ultimately, if we look at the state of hypnosis society's put under, it's because they don't want people to think for themselves. They don't want them to evolve. They don't want them to go out and bring more light into this world, and truly, you know, stand and elevate the I guess the process of evolution. They want the opposite. So many people, again, I think hypnosis is such a good work. It's like they're just in this state where they can't even see outside of it. But once you wake up to that, and once you start realizing, wow, okay, I need to actually burn this a little bit, and I need to actually trust, and I need to take a deep breath and actually think, you know, what would my reality look like if I burn control, and if I fully stepped into surrendering and co-creation instead of manufacturing? What would that actually look like? And it's crazy because it's one of the scariest things to do in your life. It's one of the most vulnerable things to do, but it's also one of the most rewarding. You know, even if I look at this last month and this $1 million month, I haven't done more. I haven't worked harder. I definitely haven't been stressed out. I've been hanging out in between. Where was I? Like, I think Barcelona, and then a few days in San Diego, going deep in a course, and now I'm in Thailand. Like, I'm really not stressed if you want to check me out, right?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, let's say years ago, you've literally 10 times your income, and are you working 10 times harder?
No. And you know what's crazy? I was working it out. I'm actually doing less, right? And it's this amazing paradigm of stepping into this place where you can actually do less and receive more. But you can't do that if you're trying to control everything. If you're so, I guess, committed to controlling the process and manufacturing everything. Also, obviously, if you have an underlying belief system of like, in order to increase your results, you need to work harder, you need to do more. Like, again, this is kind of just what we're taught in our lives, right? Just the minute you start flipping that and start going, oh, well, what if that wasn't true? Like, what if I chose to burn that? What if I chose to step into the opposite of that? What would that actually look like? You know, that's when the magic really starts to flow. And this is where medicine can help, because this is hard stuff potentially to kind of just get your mind around. And I think that people try and attack this stuff on a mind level. But once you truly drop into not the mind stuff, well, firstly the mind stuff, but then secondly the energetic stuff, and then thirdly grounding it physically, I think, you know, the combination of those three elements with the medicine, like that's where the magic happens, you know.
Wow. Can you elaborate on those 3 steps again? Because that was really powerful what you just shared.
Yeah, totally. So most people, and this was me, by the way, like this is where I've kind of clicked over the last 6 months, is like, let's say 2 years ago, I was totally like mind. I was like, all the answers are in your mindset, like blah, 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 right? And then I kind of figured out probably about a year ago how to play more of an energetic game. And it's like, okay, well, of course, you know, our belief systems are important. What we think is important. Our mindsets are important, but wow, like hang on, it's actually really important what's going on energetically with us. What about our energetic body? What energies are we calling in? Who are we surrounding ourselves with? Where is our frequency? And I figured out, wow, okay, I can't manifest something unless I'm vibrating at the same frequency as that thing. So how do I raise my vibration? And how do I eliminate things that are blocking my vibration being raised? So that's the energetic game. But something for me, especially in the last 6 months, has been, well, how do I like physically actually embody all this? So it's not just thinking about it and feeling it energetically, but actually, again, embodying it. And for me, a lot of my work over the last 6 months has been looking at, wow, okay, everything's stored in my body, and my body actually has all the answers. And what about stuck, you know, patterns that are literally stuck in my organs, which I'm storing from emotional data, which are stuck in there. You know, we do things in Peru, like we did a tobacco cleanse, for example, where you have a little shot of tobacco and then you drink 7 liters of water. Now that's a freaking lot of water. I'm not a very big person. I was like 3 liters in. I was like, I'm done. They're like, keep going. Wow. Right? And so you're literally like purging this just basically water straight back up. Now, obviously, your stomach's pretty clear after the first liter. And so it's pretty interesting what continues to come out of your body. And without getting too gross on you guys, I was like 5 liters in and this crazy like black thing came out. And I was like, what the hell is that? Right? Wow. And the shaman looked at it and she's like, oh, honey, that's emotional. She's like, that's just emotional data. She goes, it looks like it's from your intestines. Right? Wow. And so for me, it's been very much like, how do you clear your physical body? But then also everything you're manifesting on a mental and energetic level, how do you then embody that physically? And once you click into all 3, you know, that's when you speed up the process of evolution.
That is powerful. Mentally, energetically, and physically. And it's like the trifecta.
Right.
And I am so curious, like in your daily habits or daily rituals, like learning all this about just the cleansing and just seeing what you saw, have you kind of changed the way that you just live your life on a daily basis?
Yeah, definitely. You know, the work that I do in terms of my internal work that I do on a daily basis is super different from a year ago. So if we were to have this conversation a year ago, I was literally like journaling, right? Now I still love journaling and it's still a tool that I use. But I'm drawing from a lot of, I guess, different other things at this moment. So for example, even this morning, I was up like, and this is an interesting thing as well after the medicine, I've been sleeping way less. So I've had 3 hours sleep technically from last night. Now I know that should be crazy and I used to sleep a lot, but I'm just finding I'm more energized. I'm vibrating in a higher frequency and I just wake up at 4 a.m. now. So that's kind of interesting. So I was up super early this morning. And, you know, in the past, I would have sat down and just journaled and basically called in my reality, which if you think about it really is really just the mind place, right? A little bit energetically when you tap into that feeling, but mostly mind. Versus this morning, you know, there's now like yoga that I bring in physically to move my body a little bit more and to shift things in my body. But also I'm using a lot of breath work, which I really love. Again, specifically getting into my organs and clearing out, you know, stuck fears and emotional patterns, which are sitting physically in my organs, which is seriously cool. But then also combining that with meditation. And even one of the things that I've been doing recently in meditation, I was sharing this with one of my client groups, some of my mindset groups, mastermind groups the other day, was simply just asking for support on a daily basis. Now, this is something that so many people don't do, but when you're in a place of meditation or just being still or gratitudes or whatever you're doing every morning or during the day, just simply ask for support with the things that you're calling in, and you'll be surprised as to what shows up in your life. You know, you can ask, again, God or universe or source or nature or whatever it is for you that you're connecting to that's greater to you, but there's something something big that I've been doing, and it's just been amazing. The people, the ideas, the downloads, the little things that have just been showing up, and it's like, wow, that's such a beautiful synchronicity. And it's like, well, hang on, no, I asked for that. I actually asked specifically for support in this area, so of course it's showing up, because ultimately you get what you ask for in this life, right? So combining things like that, and I'm reading a lot as well. So I will then drop in and I will read for like 15, 20 minutes and then incorporate some journaling. Now there's no like perfect set structure to that. Again, if we look at routine and we're not diving into control, it's not about doing something for 5 minutes and then 10. It's about operating from flow and asking yourself, what do you actually need in this moment in order to reset and ground into your day, and then also to tap into evolution. And then it's giving yourself what you need in that place.
That's a really awesome subject that you brought up. And I just want to get clear on asking for support. So let's say I wake up in the morning and I say, AJ, what type of content should I create today? Do I just say that to myself out loud or just mentally?
Yeah, so I think if it's a content thing, for example, I would tune into the feeling, firstly, of knowing that you're creating amazing content. So I would still use a future pace, basically, to energetically and even mentally or visually get into that place of maybe the end of the day or the end of the week or the month, whatever, or the project, whatever it is you're working on, around like, wow, I'm creating amazing content. And then you just simply ask. I wouldn't even ask yourself, but I would simply put it out again to God, universe, source, whoever it is that you're connecting to, someone, right? If you don't know, just ask. Ask blindly. I promise you, someone will show up. And so, right, someone will listen, someone will hear you. And it's simply asking, hey, like I would love some support in creating amazing content today. Like, please show up in a way where you support me. And even just asking for that on a daily basis. Like, again, it depends, I guess what you believe and what you're tuning into, whether it's angels or God or whoever, it doesn't matter. But even asking, I've just noticed that it just gets me even more into a flow state and more into synchronicity, and more good stuff starts showing up.
I love it. Love it. I'm going to change gears. I'm going to ask a question that's going to just switch things up a slight bit. But okay. What is one thing that you believe, but you think other people would find very strange?
One thing I believe, but oh God. One thing I think most of my I think most of my life people would find really strange. So I think for me, this is something that I was battling with actually probably about 6 months ago. And I'm pretty sure I shared this with you, AJ, is I had, I guess, quite a fear around if I was to go really deep into this work and go deeper into plant medicine, go deeper into basically spirituality and connecting with source. If I was to go there, I was so scared that I was going to go down the rabbit hole and get lost in there, and that basically my money and my business would just like blow up and disappear, right? Because there is this society thing going on around basically like you can be spiritual or you can have abundance, but you can't really have both, right? And it was a big thing for me. And I had to do a lot of work around burning that and realizing that, hang on, well, abundance is I can't even say it, spirituality, and vice versa, right? And so I think for me, one of the big, beautiful things is knowing that I believe that the more that you tap into source, the more that you tap into creation, the more that you do the work on a spiritual plane, the more that is actually going to, if you stay grounded, elevate your abundance, elevate your business, elevate your clients, elevate all the good stuff flowing into your life. So that's something now which I'm very grounded in. That's something which has got me to where I am now, and especially over the last month. In my business, we have not done anything differently strategically. We have not hired a whole new team. We have not figured out the secret marketing strategy on Facebook. We're not really doing anything different. In fact, I don't know, I'm doing less, right? And so the magic in there is that, okay, it's actually been like an alignment game, a spiritual game, an energetic game. It's really being an internal game, which has then amplified these results. So I think that's something I am very grounded in, which makes total sense to me. But I think the average person on the inside looking out would be like, what?
No, I get it, because that was a fear of mine. And one of the reasons why I didn't get into plant medicine is because I thought that I would lose my drive, sell my house, give all my possessions away, and become a monk, and just be like, screw this business. I just want to meditate all day.
I remember you kind of checking in with me being like, so has your business increased or decreased since doing this?
Of course I had to ask, you know?
So funny.
You know, because I actually know a few people who've taken the route and they've decided, you know what? Entrepreneurship is not for me. I'm going to devote my life to a charity or just quit my business and start something new. And there's nothing wrong with that. Obviously, that's what you're called to do. But at the end of the day, you said something so powerful because spirituality and abundance go hand in hand. You know, it's a beautiful thing to be able to live a rich life, give back, and just be very enlightened.
Exactly. And look, I think so much of that comes down to the integration. I can really feel into the space of someone going into ceremony, seeing probably too much, getting totally overwhelmed and going, oh my God, I'm just going to release everything and go just serve the world because that's what the world needs. I can really feel how that's possible for someone. But that's probably because they're not integrating it and they're not actually integrating it. You know, I set a very clear intention, and I do every time before I go into ceremony. My intention is always that this ceremony is not to take me away from here. It's to have me be more present in my life. The ceremony, my intention is that I'm going to be more present on this planet, more present in my purpose, more present in abundance, not taken away somewhere else, away from it. Because that's a lot of people do, right? They go flying and all of a sudden they're in like the woo-woo land of the clouds and nothing matters anymore and they just release everything and whatever, go like hug a tree and meditate. I really don't believe you're serving the world like that. I mean, of course that's a choice, but I don't believe you're of greater service to the world. I don't believe you're helping the planet evolve if you do that. I actually believe it's selfish. And I know I'll trigger a shitload of people by even saying that, but I really believe that the work is to expand and then be more here, be more present.
I love you sharing that. That's very bold and true. I agree. Never even talk about that stuff. Sorry.
For a change.
I appreciate your courage.
Right.
So we discussed so many amazing things. And let's say, you know, this year as a whole, you know, is there something that I didn't ask you about that you would like to share with the audience just about your journey thus far?
Look, I think we've had a pretty amazing conversation and we've gone really, really deep into it. I think the only other thing I'd love to share is that it's been super blissful. You know, none of it's been from a place of being stressed out or worried or figuring it out or whatever. For me, it's been tapping further into bliss and further into play and further into love than I've ever known possible before, you know. So I'm really grateful for that and grateful for that element of the journey, but also excited about that because I know it gives other people permission to do the same, and it gives them permission to expand and be more and do more in this world and be more here, but from a really beautiful, loving, blissful place rather than a like stressed out push, hustle, like whatever opposite of bliss is. I don't even know the words anymore, right? Whatever that place is. So yeah, I'm just really grateful and excited to give others permission.
I appreciate you sharing that. And I noticed such a difference in you. Like I want to acknowledge your certainty, your peace of mind, your energy. I've been friends with you for a while, but lately it's like you just shine so bright and you were just so present in the moment. Everything just flows. And you are truly one of the women who has it all. Everything, health, wealth, relationships, happiness. You have it all in abundance. And I just want to honor you for inspiring me because you're an awesome friend. You always hear from me. Anything I need, you always got my back. But you are an inspiration for me because I look at you and you create a new standard. It's like, wow, look what Regan's doing. So I appreciate you for being such an inspiration in my life.
Thank you so much. And I just want to see you and honor you as well, because you do inspire me so much as well. And something which I don't even know if you're aware of because we haven't had this conversation, but you're so beautifully grounded in sacred masculine. And I know that you give so many other men permission to then ground into that place as well. But you are also such medicine for females as well, who then look at you and if they're in a place where they need to know that sacred masculine exists, they see you, and whether or not it's conscious or unconscious, they receive it. So just how you show up is so beautiful. It really is.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Cheers to
Mm.
us.
Go us.
Yes. So people want to know, hey, I love Regan. She's changed my mind. I just want to know more about her. Where do they go?
Yeah, so I'm taking over every social media platform in the whole world. So any of those, it's all under Regan Hillyer. I hang out mostly on Facebook, but any of those. And then there's obviously reganhillyer.com. But just look, send me a message. I love getting messages from people, and especially let me know that you came from this podcast and that you're connected with AJ. Anyone who's connected with AJ is a brother or a sister of mine. So just reach out.
Thank you. Yeah, and I appreciate you just to be opening up about this stuff, because this is something that when you told me your experience, I'm like, wow, the world has to know this. And I'm so glad that you felt you were called to share it as well. So I'm just so grateful we were able to capture this and just share it with the world.
Oh, for sure. No, it's been amazing. And you've asked amazing questions and gone super deep as per usual. So really grateful.
Appreciate it.